Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Premier League panel show on American Scouser. After a week off, we are back in action. We got the panel here. Sully representing Newcastle, obviously, as you guys can tell from the jersey. Alan is back because Arsenal is back on top of the league, so he has decided to come back representing Arsenal. And Alex is with us representing Fulham, our latest EFL opponents looking like. So we'll probably touch up on that too. I know. Well, let's do like a mini recap over here, right? It's been a while. Obviously, we're gonna have 2 weeks. Cup games, dare I say, Champions League games, and stuff like that. So let's start with you, Sully. Where are you at with Newcastle now? With everything that has gone from the Champions League ordeal, obviously, and obviously the EFL Cup and stuff like that as well. Where does that leave Newcastle?
Honestly, it, it's not to be unexpected. Both the Champions League game against Milan last week, and then unfortunately the game yesterday, which still having a tough time getting over. Um, we don't have the legs to finish a game. We just don't right now. We can play well for a chunk of time. We got to get early goals, and then we can finish something out. But we're hurting. We're hurting right now. But it doesn't matter. We're still better off than we were under Mike Ashley. We're the best we've looked in close to a decade. So I want to say I'm happy, but I see the vision. I'm not jumping in the lifeboats off the Titanic just yet.
You're not. How is like an average Newcastle fan? I mean, because sometimes like how I perceive things, and I go online, I'm like, holy mother of God. So like, is that the same with you, or do you feel like most Newcastle fans are like, yeah, it's gonna take some time?
I've had to stay offline for. I think most Newcastle fans are doing all right, but between our fans who are uh, a little bit too hopeful and the hate we get from Arsenal fans. I'm telling you what, Arsenal I used to really enjoy watching Arsenal. Arsenal fans online are maybe I would cheer for Millwall over Arsenal at this point in terms of a fan group. Like give me
Oh,
a break.
oh,
Oh,
boo hoo
the
hoo,
amount of
boo
times
hoo
I
hoo,
hear bringing up
boo
Joel
hoo
Linton,
hoo.
the ball was out of
So
bounds.
it was. Willick said it was out of bounds.
Oh
Willick
my
Fucking
God! Yeah, I could not
cry
believe
me a
that whole
river,
story.
build a
Willie
that
bridge,
whole
told us.
thing,
get
that whole
over
thing,
it. Get
everything about it
over it.
was a disgrace. Okay,
Oh
it was
my
a disgracia.
God. Give me a break. But this might come as a surprise to all three of you, but there aren't a lot of Newcastle fans I talk to on a regular basis. We're kind of few and far between. So I like to think I represent uh, the way Newcastle fans should be looking at this. We're not, it's a long season still. We still have a lot to play for in the Prem. And as we've seen, teams can have bad weeks, teams can have good weeks. So I think we're in a rough stretch right now, but overall, trust the process.
Arsenal, let's go to Arsenal. I'm not even gonna go into the comedy of Arteta is so embarrassed to be in England and all that kind of shit and doesn't get anything because their ex-player said it was out of bounds. The biggest bunch of bullshit. Must be nice to be from London, is all I can say in the Premier League. That's the only explanation I
Oh,
got with it. Or everybody is jealous of his Lego hair. Uh, or he sent everybody a free Lego kit or some shit. I mean, I can't understand. I can't come up with any other reason why he would get nothing
As
after
some,
that. Because I think we all know if Klopp said half of that stuff, there would be a fine and all kinds of like stuff coming Liverpool's way. But where are you guys at? Since you're back, we obviously know you're on top of the league again. Continuing in the Champions League. Obviously, you guys were already out of the FL Cup, so that's out of the equation. But optimistic, or is it kind of like a cautiously optimistic Arsenal fan after last year and just being an Arsenal fan in general?
it is. There is cautious optimism. I do. No, there is cautious optimism with the team. Obviously, we had that run last year where we thought we were going to win it. We had 9 points up on City, and all of a sudden, City did what City does, and Arsenal, unfortunately, what Arsenal did. But as far as like the Champions League, I'm actually quite impressed with the fact that we finished that out and got on top. We put 6 on lawns after they embarrassed us at their stadium. We took care of PSV. We took care of what was those lawns, PSV, and I forget the other two they went through, but it was
Nobody's significant. That's why you can't remember it.
yeah, that's right. But watch them knock us out. And we got through on the top of the group. We're top of the league right now, despite all the allegations that have gone on against Newcastle and all that stuff. So
yeah, your players should not be talking to their ex-teammates.
Look, I'm just saying.
All that came out of that.
Just saying, once a gunner, always a gunner. Joe Willock, he's one of our own.
But he did continue playing. Then shouldn't he have stopped? I'd be like, hey, it's out of bounds.
Hey, man.
Anywho, let's get to Alex with Fulham. Kind of a mixed bag, right? Obviously, continuing in the EFL Cup. That's the first time, I think, right, for the semifinals and stuff like that. So that's a big deal. Is there like a disappointment of being able to maybe squeeze like a Middlesbrough draw? Is sort of like getting. I mean, would you rather have Arsenal or you can't have Arsenal because they got eliminated. But would you rather have like Liverpool or would you rather have had like Chelsea?
I mean, I'd 6 or half dozen on that. It would have been fun to have a West London kind of semifinal there over 2 legs. Obviously, of course, Chelsea get Borough. Like, of course they did. That's pretty typical. And Fulham are just going for full ownership of the city of Liverpool in the EFL Cup. So we'll see if the mayor comes out and like gives us the keys to the city after the 2-legged draw. We'll see.
You guys lost obviously in the league against Newcastle. I'll be honest, I only was able to watch them. That's for the most part included. I did take a look at some of the City Palace game, especially like the highlights and stuff like that afterwards, and watched part of the game. But mostly it was like a non-soccer weekend aside from like the United game. Let's start with you guys because obviously you guys played each other. Newcastle, Fulham 3-0, early red cards. I don't know if it was. I honestly did not, like I say, to see the red card and stuff. Is that a justified red card? How do you guys? No shame in losing away at Newcastle. I think it's one of the toughest places to play. But
I think I can start slightly. The consensus from Fulham fans that I've talked to or have seen is losing away at Newcastle is kind of the expected result, and so it's not like Fulham fans are super bummed about that. I think the bummer is coming off of back-to-back 5-0 wins to a Newcastle side with like 6 healthy senior players who had just had their hearts torn out in Europe a couple days earlier. Like, if you're ever going to get a win at St. James Park, that's it. That's the time. And then that's the frustrating thing is that if you lose 3-0 in a run of play, it is what it is. But to lose like that, where the game is taken away at 30 minutes or whatever it was, just sucks because then you're just not really watching football at that point, and it's just not. Again, it's not really a result that tells you anything about either team. It just is a result that goes in the scorebook as 3-0, and you're like, well, I didn't really learn anything about either team there. Just that one team can play better with 11, the other team can play with 10, which sucks. And that's the shit thing you do that with a game like that, where it's just like last year, Fulham, when Newcastle came to Craven Cottage, forget who it was, got a red card in the 8th minute, and the scoreline was 4-1. It's like you don't learn anything from either team in that. It's just it goes over. So that's frustration. It sucks to lose Raul for the next 3, including yesterday, so 2 more league games. But say Levy.
How about Newcastle? Does that Champions League ordeal? First of all, that has to be extremely gut-wrenching, right? Because especially after like beating PSG and stuff like that, what it was on a high, it almost looked like you at least would be in Europe either freaking way, even if it was not Champions League. Does it almost help though in some ways to like kind of get the bad taste out of your mouth against Fulham?
I think so. Newcastle's like a working class city. We're not a posh London club. We're not dealing with,
What are you talking about?
I'm just talking like in general. I'm just kind of just generally.
No Victoria sponge on the train up, no cheese plates.
Exactly. We're salt of the earth, basically Scotland up there in the north.
So, Islington is not that great of a place.
Anywho, Alan, I don't know why you're taking that so personally, but anywho, I think it's almost like a relief that we're out of Champions League. And you know, Alex, like, you know, this is gonna sound patronizing, but I don't think there's any other way to say it. But like beating a Fulham side like that was on a great run, like that's a good win for Newcastle right now. Like I think like most of our fan base was feeling pretty solid. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Sir Z. Thank you. Break out the haggis. But yeah, I think we really took a lot away from like that. That was a good win for us. That was a win that we needed. Now it was kind of a loss in some ways. Shar is out. Joel Linton is out. We took more injuries. I mean, we're the freaking triage center right now. Like, set up the FEMA tents outside St. James's at this point. Like, it's tough. It was great to see Lewis Miley get on the board. It was great to see Dan Burton get on the board. Local guys, but that was a win we needed. But God, we are just limping along. We are just limping along right now.
The second Miley came on, I said he's going to score. 100% the 17-year-old's going to score. No chance. He is going to score.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, that kid is something for his age. I mean, see, I'm always scared of that, though. You got to kind of like see it long term because, I don't know, as Liverpool fans, we've had a lot of like kids that come in and are like, oh my God, he's like better than next best thing. He's Gerrard, he's Coutinho and stuff like that. And then to be able to continue that once you get the initial success really depends on the player, how they're brought up, their support system and stuff like that. So time will tell. See, I'm shocked though that you say the Champions League thing. I thought that would have been like a huge bummer for Newcastle fans. Especially, I think the way it went down, like the groups came out, right? It's a pain in the ass group. It's like the worst group you can get. So if you kind of stumbled along and didn't make it, you were like, hey, we're not ready to hang out with the big boys yet. It almost felt like from almost getting it done to getting nowhere, I felt that part of it maybe would be disappointing.
Like, I think if you had asked me midway through, like for me, the Dortmund games are the biggest problems with our Champions League run. Those games were not good. And unfortunately, they were sort of telling to what was going to be coming up in the next few fixtures. So I think we did the city proud. I think Newcastle held their own, but it just caught up with us. We were already not well equipped to tackle a Champions League season on top of everything else. And then we get these injuries. We started the same lineup for 5 games in a row, including Champions League, including short-term rest for a lot of players. So it is what it is. For me, getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup is way more depressing, mainly because it was Chelsea. And it, like, you got to start somewhere. You have to get that first trophy somewhere. And I thought we had a chance with the Carabao Cup, and unfortunately it is what it is. But yeah, that's a good point, because we were actually talking about that for like Liverpool, like this Liverpool 2.0 and stuff like that. We keep calling with the new midfield and stuff. Normally we wouldn't, I wouldn't care as much about the EFL Cup, but it's a great starting point for this group to start winning a trophy and start winning together. And then with the teams that are left, it looked like, hey, it's very achievable. It's not like, we could have got a Middlesbrough. Of course, it went to Chelsea, but it could have been like easy championship team matchups, especially over 2 legs. Well,
so
that's
playing Fenderson, Fabinho, Reece Williams, and Phillips. Everyone said injuries happen. I think Newcastle is finding out that it's a whole different ball game when you add one more lane to the highway and with the Champions League.
And honestly, looking at that Chelsea fixture, I mean, what's the difference between Chelsea and Middlesbrough at this point? That's what hurts so much. Like, what's the difference? So, yeah,
that watching that, I don't want to jump ahead, but watching that, I came away going, God, Chelsea did not deserve to win that. Oh my gosh! And then I looked at the stats, and I was like, what happened in this match? But I'm sure we'll come on that later. Weird one.
Weird.
So, how do you take that from Fulham's angle? I mean, obviously, in the looking long term with the EFL Cup and stuff, that's one thing that we were talking about West Ham. I was shocked, for example, that West Ham rotated at all. I thought West Ham would be like, screw the United game, we can win this trophy, so we go all out. So I was really shocked that they did not play like Paqueta and stuff like that. Do you think Fulham I mean, obviously, we're only talking like 2-3 weeks away from now.
Yeah.
Would they say, hey, this is a chance to win a trophy, screw the league, we'll try to make up for it later? Or because of where they're at, does that make things tricky?
No, I think they're all in, especially getting past Everton like that. Fulham are all in. I think this is, I mean, if you win the Carabao, is it a Conference League or is it a Europa spot? What is
Europa
it?
spot.
Europa? I mean, that's ridiculous. And the Fulham have to win 3 more matches, one of them at Wembley, to get a Europa spot. Marco's all in. I think with seeing the bottom of the league, Fulham, knock on wood, are relatively safe. They're very likely not going to go down, especially with how they've been playing. They don't have to worry about that. And I think the top of the table, the 6, 7, 8 spot, might be unattainable at this point. So if you can put all your eggs in a basket and trade a couple of league matches to put all your eggs in the Europa basket, I think they're fully in, 100%.
So you would think they would rotate, like, Marco would rotate the weekend with the Premier League and start the starting 11 against Liverpool.
I think so. So, especially getting through this. When they got through Spurs in round 2, and then it was, I think, Leeds and Ipswich, and like as soon as you start to rack those wins up and Wembley gets closer, I think it starts to be a lot more like 100% let's go.
Going back to the weekend again, I kind of wanted to start with you guys since you guys played each other, but obviously we know what happened in the Bournemouth Luton Town game. That's pretty scary when something like that can happen. Oof. So, like, honestly, I don't know, like, scares the hell out of me, because if that can happen to somebody who's in peak form, being checked like 85 times a week, I don't know how much of a chance we stand. But Forest 0, Tottenham 2. Obviously, Jake is not here to talk about the Tottenham perspective of things, which I actually wanted to ask him. Now, Tottenham is related twice in this ordeal. Cooper is gone, Alan, after this game. Yeah. Right move, wrong move, especially with being replaced by Nuno.
Oh, he got replaced by Nuno?
Yes.
I don't know. Is it confirmed? That's like, those are the rumors. Those are like, what's going to happen.
I think that's confirmed.
It is confirmed, I thought, because I saw him like talking about his days in Tottenham and what he learned and what he has, what he's going to change, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. But right move, you think? I mean, looking at the standings, they were getting dangerously close to an area that's, is shocking to get close to, I guess, in some ways. So you think it's the right move, or are you shocked that they didn't wait till January or something?
Yeah, I'm a little shocked that they didn't give him till at least a transfer window to see what he can do. Especially considering, like, he took over the team in the EFL when they were in relegation to League One, and then took them all the way. I think, was it playoff winners? That season. Yeah, and then comes back comes into the Premier League, and they're about to get relegated, and then he brought them back up from getting relegated. So it's a little shocking. I think they should have given him another window, see what he could have done. I guess the objective for Nottingham was probably be a mid-table team, run the 11th, 10th, and 9th spot, and see if they can compete there. And obviously they weren't seeing that, so that's why they probably made the move.
What do you think, Sully? I mean, normally, you want to get the new manager smell, but it's kind of like a weird time to get them. Obviously, Sheffield did the same thing. Are they looking at Sheffield and stuff and saying, hey, before it's too late, we should do something?
They must be, and I really liked Steve Cooper. I always thought Steve Cooper looked like an AI generated British person. Like if you were like, this is what a British person looks like, this is the guy.
He also just looks dead behind the eyes at all times. Like there's just nothing.
I always called him the ugliest manager in the league.
Yeah. Okay, so that did not go well with Sully's statement, but okay.
I liked Steve Cooper a lot. I hope he gets another chance. I think that bottom chunk of the table is as the whole table has been, is very competitive, and I don't think he was getting the results he needed to. So, like you said, time for a new manager smell. But bummer to see him go. I think he was a good Premier League manager, and I hope he gets another shot somewhere.
I was reading some stuff, Alex, about some stuff that went wrong even in the preseason. There's some drama on the top level of things, owner, like the director, and obviously Cooper himself and stuff. So as he says, Cooper should take over Burnley. I think the thing I read in Athletic was actually talking about, him possibly going to Palace. and
Mhm.
taking over that as Uncle Roy. Roy probably wouldn't even know if the other guy took over. You're like, you okay, Roy? Just go sit in the corner over there. Steven's gonna help out this week, kind of thing. But how about you, Alex? Like, how do you take that news? Do you think it's good
Yeah.
timing? And what do you think of the choice? I guess as well.
I think I have thoughts on both of that. I think what really spooked well, first of all, Forest ownership, not known for being super stable and rational. I forget, it's a Greek like shipping magnate or something. Like he was actually ticketed. He was ticketed by, I don't know if he was officially ticketed, but scolded by the police at Fulham because he threw his like executive area badge into a bush when he left. He crumpled it up, threw it in a bush, and he was cited for littering after he left Craven Cottage because they got stomped. So not the most stable person. I think Forest fans that I've read about are pretty devastated. What Steve Cooper did for Forest to bring them out of the wilderness and back into the Premier League, they'll never forget. I think what spooked ownership really though is Everton. How Everton had the 10-point deduction and is now 2 points ahead of Forest.
Yeah.
That is what really spooks. And there's still a 5-point gap between the drop zone. But I think they were banking on Everton hanging around down there. And now that they're that run of form, I think super spooked them. And they made the move. Nuno's a weird one, though, because someone like him, he brings in the entire backroom staff, and then it takes time to build it. And it doesn't seem like they have a ton of time or that they want to give a manager a ton of time. So I'm not really sure that was the thing at Spurs, right? He brought the whole backroom staff from Wolves and tried to recreate it. It didn't come off quick enough.
Well, because he couldn't bring the entire Portuguese national team with him.
That's what I'm saying. So what's the plan? Is he just going to not do that at Forest? I don't know what the plan is. So hopefully, for his sake, he figures it out. But I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at the Forest squad and see how many Portuguese guys are in there to make it happen.
Well, the squad is like 90 deep. He's got to have a few.
Yep.
I mean, there's some hiding in there, I guess. But yeah.
Nunes has a 50% win record in the PL. I mean,
He's a good manager,
coach, but I almost felt like he was part of that equation. Like, I mean, we all joke with the Portuguese thing, but it does make a difference. I mean, I think he had something going there, and obviously he could not duplicate it. And then he goes to, I mean, the whole Saudi Arabia thing obviously is kind of an ordeal where, see, Forrest, I think, fits him more, though, than Spurs would. I think he's that kind of a level of a manager in terms of the profile of the players he deals with. Obviously, we know what happened in Saudi Arabia, and I guess Tottenham as well. Like, there's a kind of, you got to handle those top-level players slightly differently than how you can handle the middle of the gang Portuguese guys. But let's go back to the games. Chelsea 2, Sheffield United 0. That's how bad Sheffield is, I guess. City 2, Palace 2. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's start with you, Alan, because you have the most recent City pain. Ours dates a couple more years after, more than you guys. Obviously you can never knock away, but this team looks the most vulnerable because I think this is like the squad wise is probably the poorest, and you look at their bench and stuff, they don't have a lot of depth that they used to have.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of depth just because I think they have a lot of injuries as well going on. And do they even have De Bruyne? They don't even have De Bruyne.
De Bruyne has been out for months, but
yeah.
I honestly think more than De Bruyne. The moment De Bruyne went out, not having Gündoğan already is like a huge ordeal. I thought that was going to really hurt him, and De Bruyne's departure leaves as well. But do you think, as an Arsenal fan, you look in the rearview mirror right now, and how many points are they behind? I'm sure 5 points does not really make you comfortable, but do you, as an Arsenal fan, who do you guys see in the title race right now, I guess?
I see you guys, obviously. I see City in the title race. Villa, if they can keep this form up and build some momentum, I can see that in the race. I think it's a 4-way race, but City is waning. But City does what City does at the end of the season, and who knows? It could be a combination of Arsenal tripping up again, Liverpool slipping up again, Aston Villa, not playing to the way that they're playing now, and City all of a sudden gets in a run in form and they win the title. So I'm never comfortable with City in the background.
Yeah, I think so too. So this is in 2 weeks' time. City will buy depth, obviously. January. I have a feeling KDB, as much as I like watching him, and I hate that he's a City player. I feel like he's going to be the next like Thiago or Naby Keita, or that's kind of like, you're gonna see him for a couple of weeks and then you're not gonna see him for a while. He's up there in age now too, so I don't know how well of a KDB is gonna come back and how long he's going to last. But if Arsenal get Tony, the run-in will be very tight, says Cersei. Do you have hopes in this? And will he be placing bets with Tonali?
It's a new segment, Tony and Tonali.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
We'll have to make a new graphic for that. Damn it.
There's new meaning to that February 24th match. Not that I have that circled for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, he popped out the date. Yeah, he probably knows kickoff time. Yeah, so like, what does Arsenal need in January? Like, what are Arsenal fans? I mean, obviously Liverpool have their own like shopping thing and stuff, but what do Arsenal fans want to get him to the next step?
I want to see strengthening the midfield. I think that's where we're the weakest at. Havertz has been doing well from there and scoring from there, but I don't think he brings that physicality that you miss with having Granit Xhaka as that role. So I think getting a midfielder, I'm not sure who that
role or
was that
getting red cards role or what?
Oh, well, I mean, not
like some muscle in midfield, basically.
Yeah, I think we're missing. I think Arsenal's missing that right now, and I think I would like to see an Ivan Toney come in, or I know this will never happen, but Osimhen is actually my top choice as striker. But it's not going to happen in January. Yeah. Napoli is not going to give that up. I think they're still in the Champions League, and I think they're still in a fight for the league or even top 4. So, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing about Tony is, as much as I like him as a player, sometimes I worry about players that do really well in mid-table teams do not always perform as well when they come to the big boys, just because now they're playing against teams that are parked. And they're not used to that. They're used to being able to counter and have that space, and nobody parks the bus against, like Tony when, that again, like the teams he's been on. So that's the only adjustment that I worried if you'd be able to adjust fast enough. But obviously, it's a huge weapon to have. I was about to ask Alex, but then he disconnected. So let's go with you then, Sully. Obviously, you already complain about the injuries, but hey, Alex is back. You already complain about the injuries, but what is on Newcastle's wish list? What do you got? What do you want from Santa?
I think we just need like Band-Aids, like more icy hot. Like give us some cans of the freeze spray. Like we need reinforcements. That's what we need. We need guys. We don't need top level superstars right now. This is not the team to bring top level superstars. Well, a player like Tony, we would have no use for him. We would have no use for him right now. It would make no sense to bring in somebody like that. You almost got to bring in just sort of like Alan was saying, bring in muscle, bring in some physicality. Like we're going to be in it. I don't think we're going to get top 4 at this point unless Tottenham continues to get hit by the injury bug and Villa actually realizes that they're Aston Villa. But I think we need.
I think O'Shea is in here.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm guns a-blazing. But no, I think
easy.
I think we just need reinforcements. I think we need some solid players who we can plug in and play in multiple positions real quick. There aren't many of them lying around, but Livramento, like guys like Livramento who can play multiple positions on the field, who you can stick into a game and be like, okay, this is your job. This is all you need to do for these 90 minutes. Go get them. And that's what we need. And I think that's the best we can hope for. Europa League is, I think, our target now for next season and what we need to get out of this season. I don't see us breaking into that top 4. We're definitely not in the title race. And I think it would be hard fought to get another Champions League spot.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting January window, too, because of like the African Cup, Asian Cup and stuff like that. A lot of teams that would maybe be selling either are probably going to ask for a lot more, or they're not going to be in a position to be able to sell with people already away. So it's going to be interesting. Loan deal Neves back to PL. Could there be like a Saudi connection over there? Nah, they wouldn't do that, would they? Alex.
For a righteous football club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chelsea?
So we hear, yes. Chainsaws chopping up people is the way to
Yeah.
go.
I saw Amanda
Okay.
Stapley on the TV on the other day, so she's smiles.
Yep.
Alex, what's on the wish list from Santa for Fulham fans in like the January window?
I think one of the best things to happen, and worse, is Raul getting sent off like that, because I think his run of form, I think, started to convince a lot of Fulham fans, like, do we need to splash money on a striker? Like, man, Raul's here. And then when he goes off and you see what's behind him and you go, oh my gosh. So I think it does a good thing in that it maybe takes a little bit of the desperation and the stink of desperation off of Fulham, that Fulham don't have to go into the market and say, we will literally give you a child, our firstborn children, if you give us a number 9. So hopefully, it takes some desperation away, but still, yeah, a striker, a true goal scorer up front is on the wish list. Andre from I think it's Fluminense, right?
Yes.
All the links are there that he's coming, which will be great. I think a big problem early on this season was the lack of creativity. So Raul was up front, and yeah, Wobie and Bassi will hurt in January leaving. Like, that kind of sucks, especially with the Wobie. He's been so good. Yeah, so I think a striker and then maybe a midfielder, like a creative midfielder like Andre, to kind of play and feed the front line a little bit more. Muniz is okay. We saw him against Everton. Is what he is, and Vinicius is a walking red card. So the fact that he's not been sent off recently is wild. He is a sometimes reckless human being, and you see it and you're like, oh my God. I think one of the goals we scored against Forest, I forget, in the lead up, there's like an elbow. He's a head case, but someone up top and then a little bit of bolstering in the midfield.
Yeah, because people like fans have short-term memory, right? I mean, I remember, so for the last 2-3 months, you've been harping on the fact that you guys just can't score goals.
Yeah.
And then Liverpool opens the floodgates. You guys start scoring goals like 3-4 games in a row. But then, you don't want to forget what you needed just because of like recent form.
Yeah.
That's interesting you bring up Andre, because obviously he was linked with Liverpool, and I know Arsenal was in the talks as well of like getting him. How close is it? That's one I wanted to ask you. Another thing I wanted to ask you is Liverpool is calling back Carvalho because he's not getting enough playing time at Leipzig, and obviously the whole Polina talk came out because could he be like a bargaining chip of, we give you some cash and Carvalho was huge for Fulham when he was there.
Yeah.
Any talk of that, and how likely is a scenario like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter on Twitter about like a lot of fans saying we would take Carvalho back. I think it is an absolute shame what happened to him. He had an agent in his ear, and he had an offer from Liverpool. I mean, what 19, 20-year-old is going to turn that down? I think a lot of Fulham fans have said, we have seen this before. Like, we know what happens. Have you heard of Harvey Elliott, who is just now coming good? Part of that was an injury, but like, we know this game. You're going to be coached under Klopp. Yeah. You're going to sit on the bench. You will likely be farmed out to God knows where, and we'll see what happens. And for Carvalho, like a lot of young players, it didn't work. Marco would have him back in a heartbeat, I think. So, a lot of Fulham fans would be happy to see him come back. I think no one can begrudge a young player move like that, but a lot of people saw this coming. This was not an unknown thing.
Honestly, when we got him, we all talked all summer about maybe we'll switch to 4-2-3-1 so you can use him where he's at and stuff. But from, everything we read and the stuff he said afterwards, after he was shipped to Germany, he does not seem to have the best attitude of a young player that you would want either. Like, he feels like, maybe because of the success he had at Fulham, he feels like he's ready and he doesn't need to, so that's never
that's some of this like agent stuff. You like want to know what these agents are saying to these kids of like, Klopp wants you. He's got plans. He's ready. And if you're being fed that and you show up and Klopp's like, yeah, you're a good player, like join the club. It's Liverpool. So it was just bad from the beginning. And I would take Fulham fans to take him back. Absolutely. I think they would welcome him. He's so creative. He's a great player, especially at Fulham's kind of where we fit. It'd be great.
Anybody going to lose anybody? Like anybody, I mean, Polina obviously comes to mind because I know Bayern was interested as well. Yeah. So I don't know if they would come back for it. Arsenal, Newcastle. I mean, I know Newcastle, maybe the physio, somebody will sign him. But I mean, do you guys like fear like losing someone?
Unless they're
even
like
if it is that.
euthanizing one of our players, I don't think so. They're like a racehorse.
Send them off to the glue factory.
Yeah, seriously. I think we're fine.
Yeah.
I kind of figured like you guys would not be in the selling mode, except guys that you're trying to get rid of anyway. That you kind of ship to, the Turkish league, Greek league, or something like that. So, Matchday is available, I think, people. So start shopping. And Newcastle, we talked about. Burnley 0, Everton 2. I gotta give it to Everton. As much as I hate douche and stuff like that, they really, honestly, the best thing that happened to them was the point deduction, I think. Because they really rebounded and reacted well to that. West Ham 3, Wolves 0. I mean, West Ham is one of those teams, man. I mean, that they were horrific today, just brutal. They just like showed up, and then they were like, "Oh shit, there's a game." 90 minutes into the game, they realized there was a game, and it was ugly. Brentford 1, Villa 2. Wanted to get Shay's take on this because I'm sure it was squeaky bump time. Just because like they were down for most of the game. Arsenal 2, Brighton 0. What do you make of that? How did that one go? I just saw the score line to see. To be honest, like if you guys are gonna lose points or not. But what do you say?
They played well. They dominated possession of the ball. I think they left it too close at the end. I don't think we scored until like the 60th to 70th minute, and then getting the second goal made everyone feel better at the pub while I was watching it. So honestly, like it could have been a better performance, but to get 3 points after losing to Villa and probably, which honestly hands up to Shea and Villa, they outplayed us that day. That decision didn't mean or helped anything, or I don't really begrudge it at all. But at the same time, it's like it's bouncing back from losses like that, and winning 2-0 is at home is good.
This team struggles to score. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. That's fair. That's very fair to say. I think when Kai Havertz is up there in the top scorers list of the team, that's kind of, and not your striker, you gotta wonder like what's going on. But I'm glad it's coming from someone, but the fact that it's coming from Havertz is kind of surprising.
So let me ask you guys this then. I guess as we kind of we come to this game with Liverpool United, obviously we huffed and puffed. What is it, like 34 shots or something like that? Just could not freaking score. That should have been I don't want to say an easy win, and that's the problem. I think is everybody assumed it was going to be an easy win, but when it's a big game in the Premier League, so rivalry and everything like that, it was going to be a lot trickier. Are you guys surprised? Let me start with you, Sully. I don't know if you got to watch the game, but my thought going into the game was most managers their job is in jeopardy, and I think if they lost 2-1 or something like that, I think Ten Hag would still be around. If they lost 4-0, 5-0, that's when I think he would probably be packing. So most managers would be like, you know what, let's play it safe, keep the job and stuff. I actually kind of expected Ten Hag to be like, we play like this. I always play like this. I don't care. But he pulled a Mourinho. That Mourinho would be proud of. Are you shocked to see that he went that route to keep the job?
I'm not. Point's a point, without a doubt. I gotta say, I have not watched a ton of Liverpool this season. Cody Gakpo, I'm sorry, I was not familiar with your game. Like some of the touches that guy has for his size is tremendous.
Yeah.
But I thought that was what Man U needed to do in that game. Liverpool is kind of flying. They're flying high at this moment. They're second in the table. I think that's what they had to do, and I think Ten Hag. Well, again, we've been talking about January for a while. We'll see if Ten Hag brings anybody else in, but for a 0-0 draw, that was one of the most entertaining, I think, 0-0 draws you could ever see, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed
the neutral, maybe, yeah.
I loved watching it. Oh man, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, I think that's what you have to do. Like survive in advance. Just get that point, get out of Dodge, see if he can regroup later on in the week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, like logic says that, but I don't know, Alex. I thought looking at Ten Hag, he does not seem the most logical. He looks more like an idealist to me, based on things he's tried to do since being there. Maybe it was me like wishful thinking that he would try to come out and play and probably get smashed, but
Well,
he would stick to his principles at least, kind of an ordeal.
I mean, let's start with putting some respect on the November Premier League Manager of the Month's name, real quick. let's just circle back to that. No, I think it's one of those things where, like, two things can be true at the same time. Where I think was it Virgil we criticized United and said only one team was there to win? Who said that? Was that Virgil?
Yeah, Virgil. Yeah.
And then I think it was Roy Keane that came out and kind of chided him for that.
It's Roy Keane. I love it when Roy Keane talks shit about people talking shit, where his career was talking shit.
Which is like, it's one of those things that you can hold both in your, like, it's not, yes, Virgil was right that is exactly what happened. And it's not like it is what it is. Like, the team went out, and I think like he was talking about with Liverpool ahead of this match, like, United still has good players. They're not good necessarily all the time together, and they're a hot mess often, but like, there's still talented players there who on the right day can put together a result. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened, is they scrapped and clawed and did whatever they had to do to get a point. It would not instill a ton of confidence in me if I'm a United fan and I'm looking forward for the rest of the year. If, like, this is the level that we aspire to be at, is scraping a 0-0 draw away at our biggest rival in this emotional thing, that isn't super confidence inspiring, but I guess he's around for another week. So
yeah, it was, it's one of those. I feel like that's a team that the injuries helped them. I'd rather have those injured people out there who are entitled to spots, because those are the guys, I think, that don't perform and cause the trouble and stuff like that. When those guys were hurt, it was just like, damn it. It's almost like, I think it'd be better if Fernandez was there, because he's not going to stick to his defensive responsibilities and stuff like that. And then that's what happens. And I was kind of like, oh shit, he's not playing. Like, I'd rather have them play, like, oh, Rashford is hurt, why didn't you guys put him in there anyway, kind of a thing, so that the guys that are entitled, I think that's what the downfall of that team is. But yeah, it was disappointing, that's for sure. So he has like a huge list of everybody missing. So Onana and Amrabat are the ones. I don't know if Onana is going, because Onana might come back to find out that he doesn't have a job, even though I don't have a lot of faith in Altay doing well. I mean, knowing him very well from Fenerbahce over the years. I love the kid. He kind of got wronged in Fenerbahce, and then he kind of did it a little bit to himself. But his weaknesses is not a good combination with Premier League, I don't think. So, having said that, I don't know if Onana wants to risk losing his job by going to the African Cup and coming back and finding out that this Turkish dude is in goal instead, kind of a deal. But let's take a look at the fixtures. Obviously, next week is going to be tricky. When we're on, it's going to be the middle of the game week. Palace, Brighton, Villa, Sheffield. I'm assuming Shea is pretty confident about that. City, Brentford should be an interesting one. I don't know how West Ham is going to rebound from this. I would feel bad for United, because I think they would have to have some kind of a reaction. Tottenham, Everton, Forest, Bournemouth. Forest with the new manager. Fulham, Burnley. That looks easy on paper, is it?
Hopefully. I think with the confidence that Fulham are playing with, I hope, yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, I do think that will be the way Burnley is playing right now. They play too open, and I think that plays into Fulham's hands. But this is an interesting one. Luton Town, Newcastle, Sully. Luton can, obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I can tell you, and Arsenal can tell you, at home, they can cause problems.
Yeah.
I was watching the Luton City game 2 weeks ago, and I texted my assistant coaches and said, it looks like Luton is using our camera tower to broadcast this game from their field. It looked, I had not watched them before and was blown away by the camera setup.
It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight.
Yeah, and like, guys look big. Guys look big at Luton when they're at home. We should win this, but I think at this point Newcastle, no matter what, has to get out to an early lead, has to get some points on the board, and then defend, because we can't play deep into a game at this point. There's just no way. Trips has to figure out. There's a lot of rumors going on about what's going on with Trips because he has not looked good the last few games.
What is the rumor?
There's some rumors about some stuff in his personal life.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because he left,
like like bad stuff, obviously
bad
not
stuff.
But is it like juicy stuff or like actual personal serious stuff?
So that's the thing. He left the England camp, I think last month, for personal reasons, and they were undisclosed. But he has looked like kind of a shell of himself, and not just in his play, but like physically, he doesn't look great. So I'm hoping everything's okay with him. But I don't think we should play him. I think it's time to give Lewis Hall a chance out on the field. I think it's time for him to start a game. I think Luton's a good testing ground for that. But we got to get some goals early. Otherwise, we could be in trouble.
Yeah, that's a tough place to play. That's for sure. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know because the camera, that field is definitely narrower than, what Newcastle is used to as well. And it makes it hard to get wide and open them up, and they can kind of score in the counter. So,
and that's our strength, our wing play to open up the center of the field. If we can't do that, and it sounds like Gordon might have picked up a knock against Chelsea, and if Gordon's out, good Lord, like I might as well fly over and suit up. Hey,
I'll tell you what. One thing about Gordon is he seems to have, to a certain extent, because I can't stand him personally,
same.
of his Everton days. But
shocker!
Okay.
Not the way his diving thing. That was like the biggest thing that was the most annoying. That guy would like flop like a fish when he was at Everton.
Diver, punches people in the back of the head.
Goal scorer, assist maker. Like, these are all other titles we can refer to Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, we stick with diver. I'll stick with diver. Yeah. No, I mean, I think I haven't seen as much of Newcastle, but I have not seen him. The times I watch Newcastle, he tries to stay up as opposed to like he would just fly off like he got shot when he was at Everton. And that was like, I think he almost earned himself where nobody was buying it anymore, even if it was legit, because he was constantly diving.
He's got some grit. I'm just worried he's going to call somebody a mudblood. That's what he looks like, Draco Malfoy. That's what scared the hell out of me.
FA gets involved.
Seriously. Yeah.
Liverpool Arsenal. Alan, I mean, obviously you guys are a bit more well rested, even though Liverpool was able to rotate a lot today and was able to take, thanks to West Ham not showing up, we were able to take off guys really early overall. But how do you see this game?
I see this as another beast that we need to slay that we haven't slayed for a long time, and that is Anfield. There's the atmosphere there. That is just Liverpool playing there. There's some kind of aura about going over, not even just Anfield, going to Merseyside, because they had struggled to beat Everton over there for a while too. So just this aura around Merseyside. Hopefully we broke it down earlier this season, but Everton is Everton, and Everton sucks.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I would compare those two. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I hope we go in there and we get all 3 points. We almost did it last year, and then all of a sudden, Zinni makes, falls asleep at the wheel, and all of a sudden we get Alexander-Arnold crossing a ball in for a goal, and it's all, the league is lost right after that. So
that's a bummer.
But I want to win.
Oh man, that was hard.
I want to win. I want to win.
Bobby is not there, so you guys should be happy about that. Bobby and Jota, both are not there, obviously, and they both love an Arsenal game to score some goals. So you're saying, though, that you would be content with a draw. Am I hearing that right?
No, I want to win.
Well, obviously, I'm just saying, but a draw would not be the way you presented it. Did I get that right?
Okay. Yeah, we got a draw last season. But that was late. That was late in the season. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's contextually it's different. If we get a draw now against the team that's in second place, away from home at a place that we haven't won in a while, that also would be good too. But I would want to see a win.
Well, you'll be happy to hear after the West Ham game today, Klopp was not too happy with the crowd. over the last 2 games, and he basically said, if you're not going to be up for it and in the mood, give your ticket to somebody else. If you're not going to be going 90 minutes in the Arsenal game, do not show up. There were a lot of times where even the United game and even today, I don't know what the expectation is, but it was very quiet in there. So I think he realizes this is a huge game. And I mean, Anfield, man, everybody talks about it. Obviously, we brag about it, but it's not a bias. I mean, you talk to all the ex-players, and they talk about what kind of a tough place it is to go there and play there and stuff like that when the environment is right. So, I mean, we've seen some crazy games over there. And Anfield can win you a game, and I think Klopp realizes that he might need that because obviously we're like a bit more shakier in certain spots. How do you see that game between us and Alan's boys?
Yeah, I think both would come into it feeling confident and saying like, yeah, of course we can win this game. We should, not should is the right word, but like this is a game we should be winning. For Arsenal, it's because they want to win a title. And I've talked a couple times about different games this year when Liverpool went to Newcastle. Like those are the kind of matches that if you want to win a title, you got to win. Yeah. And to your point, Alan, like if Arsenal want to win the league, they've got to win games like this one. It's not enough to get a point here or there. So that's what Lego Head will be saying is we need to take home all three. And Klopp will be saying like, okay, if they want to come and win the league, they're going to have to come through us at Anfield to do it. Especially with City being kind of shaky, like we've talked about. Like, I don't know if it runs through the Etihad again this year. Maybe at the end of the day it will, but I don't know. That's my take. I think both sides will say we can and should get 3 points here. It's hard to predict this one. Maybe a 6-6 draw. No,
I don't even want to predict.
That's happened.
Yeah. I know. Who knows?
Wasn't Klopp mentioned? And I remember, speaking of Lego Head, by the way, we got to get ourselves a Lego Head design and get shirts for the entire panel.
Except for Alan. We'll do it in secret.
I said I'd wear it. Because it's a funny and enduring nickname.
Okay.
He specifically said that the crowd should not wait for him to get into it with a different man, like the other team's manager or something like that, because your boy Lego Head was the one who actually woke up Anfield from their sleep last time, and once he woke him up, that game turned upside down. I would say that's where your boy lost the title there by waking up Anfield, because it did go downhill after that. But I think that's basically was the message that the crowd has to be in it. I think he realizes they need Anfield in this game. Sully, how do you see that game? Obviously, 1 going against 2. It's kind of like the biggest matchup right now.
Well, I think, it's tough for clubs to leave like the comfort of London and go to like a real working class city in England. I think that's really tough. There aren't boba tea shops, stuff like that up in Liverpool.
I feel like Alan, this is not directed at me, but I feel like I'm catching strays over here. I feel the need to jump in. I don't know why I'm defending Arsenal.
I'm looking. Hold up.
I'm starting to bristle. I'm like, those North London clubs are the worst.
Up in the north, up in the tundra, it's tough. It's tough for teams to show up. It's tough for teams to go to a city that's built around factories. I think this is gonna be a barn burner. I think this one is gonna be maybe game of the year. We'll see what happens. Liverpool needs to get on the board. That was the problem against Man U. I don't think Arsenal is gonna sit back and defend. But now I'm blanking. Alan, who's the Arsenal defender?
There are
center back.
There are 17 boba tea shops in Newcastle, 20 in
this
Liverpool.
Man coming with receipts.
Yeah,
I just want to say this.
Greg just started picking up boba tea. We're expanding the markets.
But he's got a yellow page for every city in London back there, man. Just like shuffling around.
No, but what was your question? I'm sorry.
No, who's the Arsenal defender? Your center back. I'm blanking on his name. Yeah, Saliba's going to have to show up. I think this is going to be Saliba versus Salah. I think that's going to be the matchup to watch. If Arsenal's defense can keep Liverpool's attack out of the net, I think that's going to be huge. But Arsenal needs to get goals. I think from from their midfield. I don't think Arsenal's forwards are going to be the ones who can score in this game. I think Arsenal has to. Odegaard, I think, needs to be involved, or Odegaard needs to get a statistic in this game for Arsenal to go through. I think that'll be the difference maker. We'll see how. The Arsenal keeper situation is something to continue to keep an eye on. But Allison's great. So I think this.
The best.
Yeah, he's tremendous. I think this is game of the year potential. I think this is appointment TV. This is a must watch game this weekend without question.
This is going to be the boringest 0-0 draw ever. No.
Yes.
No, I think we can all agree that we want Liverpool to win at the end of the day.
I think we can all agree that we all want Arsenal to win.
Yeah, it should be like an interesting one. I mean, we can't even agree. I mean, we talked about it on today's show in the pre-match and the post-match, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it on Friday's morning show and stuff too. But yeah, I mean, we don't even know who the 11 would be. I do worry mainly about the midfield more than anything else, because we probably jinxed it, but we were talking about how deep our midfield was after like the rebuild of this midfield. And it's been kind of like dropping like flies. It was good to get Szoboszlai do well today again. Endo is doing better and better. So, I mean, we forget as Liverpool fans that this is still like a very, very new midfield, actually. Like, this success came almost a lot faster than we thought. Like, we did not, I don't think any one of us compared and thought, we'll be here this time, like in this late in December, that we'll be playing like title like this early. So it's a pleasant thing to take, and obviously going in Europe, going in the FL Cup, playing with Alex's boys and stuff like that, it's been a pleasant surprise. Let's go with that. So okay, it is time for Tonali's picks for the week. Before we get who are we getting in this? Tony
and Tonali.
I'll put Tony in the background or something like that.
Yeah,
He's
put him
placing the bets, whatever Tonali's telling.
Tony Ollie.
We'll get creative. We'll workshop it.
Okay, what do you have, Sully? Since your Tonali is your boy, we always start with you. Upsets of the week.
Upset of the week. We'll see. Palace against Brighton. I don't know if that's necessarily an upset per se, but I could see Palace getting a result there. Imogen, can you scroll down just a little bit?
I don't know. Like, if somebody beats Chelsea, is it an upset?
Yeah, no. The Middlesbrough
natural
of
state
London.
of the universe. Yeah. Natural order of things.
Yeah. Now, I would say Palace Brighton. I think Brighton is slipping. I think Brighton's form is off. Palace is no great shakes either, but if Palace is going to get a point, I could see it being there.
I think Brighton is another team that's finding out that, man, this Europe thing is a pain in the ass. Like, it's not the same. I feel like they're in the same boat. It just kind of like takes you off your whole regular scheme of things and throws a curveball. I think Brighton has suffered through that too.
But again, it'll be interesting to see who they bring in January. I mean, they're sitting on all that Caicedo money. Like, you want to talk about great business last season, selling Caicedo. Like, oh my God, that's highway robbery.
Yeah, but then again, that made up for kind of like the deal we got on McAllister. That they probably could have gotten just as much for McAllister if they had played their cards right and didn't have that clause in there. But this is actually my upset pick as well. That's why I'm showing that. Tottenham 1, Everton 3. I don't know about the score, but I feel like Everton gets something out of there. They're smart. Dyche is smart enough to be able to get something on the counter against that defense, I think. And they get points out of there. Alan, upset special.
I need to pick a different one.
I know.
Well, not necessarily. You can double up.
Yeah, well, we're going to triple up with a comment because Everton was my pick to upset. And it's just because, Everton is going to play Dyche ball or douche ball. And
that's more like
Postacoglu or whatever, how you spell Ange's last name, is going to go like, mate, what do you mean? I can't score on this team. Well, I know that was more English than Australian.
That was more English, yeah.
We're gonna go with it.
You'd have to workshop.
Oi, mate. Aussie. No.
So Everton again. Okay, Alex, what do you have?
Yeah, that was going to be mine. I promise. Yeah, saw it in the chat right as I was going to say it. That was going to be mine. But I'll be a little bit fun for the panel, and Wolves will get something against Chelsea. The more we watch them, the more you come away being like, God, this team is pretty average. And I know earlier in the year they beat Fulham when Fulham couldn't score, and so that might be kind of rich coming from me. But like, when you watch the team, you're like, how is this team anywhere near the top 10? Right? They just are not great. And Sully, I hope you're not stewing too hard over there, because it's so difficult to watch this team and go, what is happening with them? And I think Wolves at home, I don't know. I feel good about it.
Wolves at top game. I honestly, I was like, oh shit, there were games. It's been like busy and crazy at work, so I didn't even notice. I was like, oh, that's right, there were games today too, kind of a thing. And I looked at it and they had lost. So how did that game overall go? Like, was it your game to lose? Is it in the middle?
It was. I think we talked about it at the beginning. It was weird. The Newcastle goal came off of one of the most horrific defending touches I've ever seen.
It was so bad. Multiple touches, multiple bad. It was so bad.
It looked like something my freshman would do the first day of practice in a scrimmage against my varsity team. Like it was a shocking display, and I thought Newcastle was going to be able to ride it out. I turned it off probably in the 60th minute. I had some stuff I had to do, but Trips made a mistake that led to the Chelsea goal. I mean, from what and again, that's why I'm hoping Trips gets his head right. But I keep bringing up this guy. He's been a personal pinata for me. But Nicholas Jackson, oh my goodness, he missed 3 or 4 sitters in the half hour I was watching. Like, I don't get how Chelsea continues to look. I look at the table and I'm like, how is Chelsea still up here? How is Chelsea not in that Forest Palace range in terms of their points? Like, it's shocking to me.
Mudryk is just not good, and of course he scores the winner off of the Trippier mistake. Of course he does, but he's not great, and they got bailed out by a bad Trippier penalty. Just you come away from, and I think Chelsea had 750 passes to Newcastle's 200 or something, and 75% possession or something crazy. I think Newcastle got that goal early and just sat. He just said, Chelsea, run around and we're going to defend, and they almost got away with it.
Yes,
they almost got away with
it. And that's story of the season. Yeah, story of the season.
It's hard to blame him.
Right. Mudryk has a sick neck tattoo, though, so I mean, at least he's got that going for him.
Haircut looks like
I think Mudryk is one of those players, the prime example of a guy who can play against some open defenses and look ridiculous in I think it was the Champions League when he was holy cow, this guy is some winger. But it's a different ball game when you play against teams that defend or block your running path and take the speed aspect away from you. And I think with that team, I don't know, sometimes it's hard to pick on how can so many good players play so poorly together? That's the part. And the reason I think they're not that low down is eventually one of them does something worth his money, and then, they get the points. Whereas, somebody like Forrest and stuff like that, they don't have those players that can create something just to get you a point, 3 points, whatever.
I'll quote the late, great Herb Brooks, the American hockey coach. I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones. And Chelsea made that mistake trying to find these hot shot players, and there is no chemistry on that team. Zero.
You're going to have a quote from Todd Bowley, in 20 years from now, there's going to be a podcast. And I'm as he would say, I'm not looking for the best player. I'm looking for the most expensive player.
Yes. Fuck you, I have money.
They're gonna spend another $100 million in January, right? And they're gonna keep chasing this.
It's going to be an interesting month over here to see, obviously, with a lot of fixtures coming up for one, and then how with the African Cup and the Asian Cup going on and the transfer window. Buckle up, people. It should be a crazy month. But gentlemen, obviously Christmas is coming up, so happy holidays to everybody whatever you celebrate and all that kind of good stuff. But we'll be here, so we'll have one more show before the year ends. We'll do that. Yes, the Christmas tree. I just noticed that because I think the Jersey is so loud that I did not notice there was a tree in the background. I think is what happened.
I'll have my fireplace going next time. Nice little glow coming off.
Well, gentlemen, thanks a lot as always. Thanks to all those following us, commenting here on Instagram as well. As always, hit the like and the subscribe and all that good stuff on the bottom. And we'll be back. Have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas to those celebrates. And we'll be back next Wednesday, same time. Have an